I've talked about this before, but Skyrim is not a great game, okay? Skyrim is very similar in my mind to Minecraft in that it's a game that has taken an inordinate amount of human time and has entertained a great many people, but in terms of the actual structure of the game, it ranges from unimpressive, which is my opinion of Minecraft, to honestly kind of mediocre at points. Okay, no, I'm going to justify this. I haven't played Skyrim in like 3 or 4 or 5 years, but I remember I played it plenty of times because I remember the first time I booted up Skyrim. I remember it so vividly. The freedom that I felt was tantalizing. The feeling of being let out into that world and being able to run around, the intricacy and the engagement of the RPG system, all the size of the map and everything, it gripped me in a way that Grand Theft Auto never did. I've never been a huge Grand Theft Auto fan. Nothing, I mean, not a huge ideological disagreement. It just generally isn't my type of game. But there was something about Skyrim that really, really, really captured me, you know? But the thing about good games is that they stay good the more you think about them, you know? I've played Hollow Knight like 4 times, okay? I've played Super Mario 64 probably over a dozen times in my life. GoldenEye, all these games, and I still like them. I still like them a lot. But Skyrim turned to sand in my mouth. It really did. Like, there are elements of Skyrim, design-wise, that are almost indefensible to me. It's so strange. The intro is really bad. You get locked into like 40 minutes of completely railroaded, shitty acting before you're let out into the open world, which is the point of the whole thing, you know? The writing never goes above mediocre. I can't think of a single memorable character. I mean that sincerely, by the way. There are characters at the time that I thought were like fun, memorable characters with meaningful arcs that feel like actualized people. No, it doesn't happen. Like anywhere in Skyrim, I don't think. There are some the Jarl. The fact that you would even say that to me, I just don't think so. And no, guys, I full cleared the game, by the way. The companion quest, the Thieves Guild, I did all of it. And I just don't agree. These characters always felt like two-bit stereotypes to me. They gathered together a handful of voice actors, and one of the problems with that is that if you have one voice actor managing 20 characters across the entire game, you never really get invested in a role. You just read the lines you're given. And man, the lines they were given were never that great at any point, really. Um, the story was never that engaging either, to be frank. I mean, here's the thing. This is common in sandbox games, and I recognize that, but nobody cares about Skyrim's story at all. Like, in most sandbox games, the story is, like, cool, but, like, you mostly care about running around. But in Skyrim, nobody cares about the story. And I know that's unique because people care about the story a lot in Fallout New Vegas. I've played Fallout New Vegas multiple times. I really like Fallout New Vegas. I've played it, and every time I play it, my appreciation grows because the writing is great. The characters are great. I remember a ton of characters from Fallout New Vegas, which, to be fair, I have played more recently. But does Skyrim have anyone even close to Caesar or to Mr. House? Not even in the ballpark. Not even in the stratosphere. Not even close. Never not even close, you know? And they had more voice actors working in Fallout New Vegas. At least they seem to have, so it makes sense people get more invested in their roles. There were main characters in Skyrim that had generic voice acting. How you know who I'm talking about. You can hear his voice in my head when I say this, by the way. The one with the performatively masculine voice. You know what I mean? The God, it was like the Jarl, like that, and there were like 40 characters that sound like that, and some of them are main named characters, you know? You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, you do. Okay. which makes it really hard to get, like, invested in any character building when you're going to meet a clone of them the next time you step out into the street. So the characters are bunk, and the story is bunk, so what does that leave us with? Well, I wouldn't say that Skyrim is technically impressive, but the world was really, really cool to explore, and the atmosphere was really gripping, at least the first time. I stand by that. Here are some problems with that, though, okay? It gets really repetitive. Every, what are they called? Draugr dungeon feels basically the same. Every bandit fortress feels the same. Every cave feels the same. And unfortunately, in spite of how awesome the premise is, all of the what is it, dwarven, the dwarvish? What's the Skyrim term for dwarf? You know? Dwemer, thank you. The Dwemer ruins, while conceptually really, really cool, also get repetitive. And what's that big, like, fungal, overgrown Dwemer ruin that's like half the size of the overworld map? You know what I mean? What's the Blackreach? Yeah. Finding Blackreach was cool. Looking at Blackreach on a wiki map to see its size was cool. Going through Blackreach was miserable. The concept of Blackreach was great. Actually playing Blackreach sucked. It sucked so much. So, while there was a lot of atmosphere and it's gripping and all, the game gets really repetitive if you're doing anything beyond literally just farming screenshots. And even that you can only do for so long. It's not the most pretty sandbox game. I assume that if you're playing it through, you're trying to engage with it at least a little bit mechanically. Which brings me to the combat, by the way. Skyrim combat is broken. It is broken beyond belief. One of these, like, breaks is something the whole community knows. Stealth archers are objectively the best in Skyrim by an almost, like, exponential degree. Like, multiple times greater than anything below it, you know? At endgame stealth archer, you can invisibly insta-kill everything from a mile away. And nothing can stop you, you know? And you know what? Playing as a stealth archer is really fun when you have half of your skill points. Because when you have none, you're weak as hell. You're like panicking, firing off arrow shots while people charge at you. And then you hit that sweet spot where it feels really good. You can be noticed if you're careless, and you can't insta-kill everything, so you have to plan around encounters a little bit. That feels good. But then when you put all the points into it, you turn into an invisible demigod, which isn't fun. It's optimal, but it isn't fun. You know? Melee sucks. It has no weight to it. No weight whatsoever to Melee. Have you guys ever played Condemned? Condemned Criminal Origins? It was an Xbox game, a stealth horror action game that had a heavy emphasis on melee combat. When you swing a bat in Condemned Criminal Origins, I can, like, my hand hurts afterwards because the impact went up through the controller, okay? That game, thwack! Like, you feel that, okay? Like, melee combat in Skyrim feels like Half-Life 2 Crowbar, okay? And then they, like, break, you know? That's what Skyrim combat feels like. The difference is that Half-Life 2 is not a principally melee game, whereas Skyrim is set in the Middle Ages, you know, kind of. So, yeah, that's not great. And there's also not much interest in how melee weapons function. Aren't there like only two stats? It's swing speed and damage. But there's nothing interesting about the attack motions, mechanisms, animations, like reach, anything like that, you know? You can one-hand and two-hand, but nobody ever dual wields because it sucks, and stamina takes forever to recharge. If you ever play a full melee build in Skyrim, please, I hope to God you haven't played Dark Souls beforehand. In Dark Souls, your stamina bar will refill in about 2 seconds, okay? In Skyrim, it will take like 30 seconds to refill, maybe 10 if you're light armor, and it means that as melee, it's like you hit for a while and then you just run around a staircase until it comes back and then you do it again. And I don't think that pure melee builds are broken. They're just underpowered and uninteresting. But oh man, we haven't even talked magic. Magic does not work. There is an optimal way to use magic, and it's to put a couple of points into the healing spell so you don't have to use any money or waste inventory space on anything else. And that's it. Because if you move past that, they spent so much time with so many different spells and the soul shards and the this and the that and it does nothing. You burn through your mana in a nanosecond, and there's nothing cool about it either. One of the main problems with Magic is that Magic is supposed to feel tactical, but the AI is dog shit. All enemy AI is like 4 IQ. They just charge directly at you, and sometimes if they're ranged, they'll just stand still, and if you're out of line of sight, they'll just wait there. And sometimes they'll just decide to be melee and charge at you if they run around a corner. And sometimes they'll fire at you through walls. And sometimes they won't even notice you. And you'll just run right past them and they won't even notice you. And it's like, oh my god, why do I put any effort into this game? It's completely broken. Magic being tactical only works if enemies behave in ways that reward tactical behavior. But nothing does the killing quite as good as arrow headshots from a million miles away, you know? So, And there's so much to it that feels like it's so much missed potential. Do you know how many times I tried to do magic builds in Skyrim? Look, all that needs to be said is that one of the most popular mods for Skyrim is a complete overhaul of the magic system, okay? People know what needs to be fixed. So, the combat just doesn't feel that good. It just doesn't. Oh, and that's not even to speak of enemy leveling, by the way. Enemy leveling in Skyrim is completely dog shit. The way it works is that because you can go anywhere in the environment at any time, most stuff will kind of track with your level, but it does so in a jittery, unintuitive, and completely inconsistent way. So sometimes you can be running through an area and you will just be annihilating everything. There'll be 20 levels below you and you'll obliterate them. And sometimes you'll enter a Draugr dungeon. You'll fight like a bunch of super weak enemies. And then what's the enemy at the end? The Draugr Lord? He shows up and he's like 10 levels above you. You know? Like everything in that dungeon was just like fodder for you to melt through. The Overlord, yeah. And then because I know that feeling so well. You're running through the dungeon and you're thinking, this is easy, whatever, get my gold, get my soul gems, get my gold, whatever. You know, open up the urns that have already say they're been opened and they're empty, but open them anyway. Get the gold, get the gold, get the gold. And then you get to the final room and it's got the Fusra Da fucking dragon speak at the wall on the background, and there's the crypt, and the crypt opens, and you're like, all right, time to kill this thing. You fire off an arrow at it, and 1/80,000th of its health bar disappears. And you're like... yeah, and this happens a lot, too, by the way. This doesn't happen a little bit. This happens a lot. This is a frequent occurrence if you play this game. Just turn down the difficulty? Thanks for reminding me. Difficulty options suck. All they do is multiply damage and health. That's a bad difficulty system. They don't adjust anything else about enemy AI or the accessibility of different stuff. It's just higher difficulty means they have more health, you take more damage. Which is like, okay, fine. But that means that by hard, you mean grindfest. And you can turn the difficulty down, but why should I have to turn the difficulty down when dynamic leveling has made a dungeon imbalanced? If the first 99% of a dungeon just melts before me, and the last 1% is virtually impossible to overcome, that's not something that I should have to compensate for by fiddling with the difficulty on the fly. That's a problem with the game design. I don't necessarily have a problem with some kind of auto-leveling system. Breath of the Wild did this to moderate success, but Skyrim has done it worse than almost any other game that I have ever played, you know? I could talk about the glitches and the bugs. I could talk about, oh god, you guys know the mountain shuffle? Where you know that, like, you can get to a place faster if you go up the mountain and you have to spend 20 minutes jumping into, like, the brown part of the mountain rather than the white snowy part to, like, try to maximize your... Yeah, stuff like that just feels glitchy and unintuitive and unfun and weird, and it also cuts down, by the way, on the immersion which is one of the game's better selling points. But this all leads me to the crafting. The crafting in Skyrim was my favorite part, and now it's my least favorite part, because it is the most uninteresting and procedural waste of grinding time imaginable. Okay? So, if you're blacksmithing, like armor and weapons, it's at least passable in the sense that it makes sense that you craft stuff and then you make a thing. Okay? That on its own seems serviceable. The problem is the 10 trillion iron daggers that you are inevitably going to end up producing. Other games have done better versions of the system. Final Fantasy XIV did a better version. You guys remember? In Final Fantasy XIV, you get an EXP bonus every time you craft a new blacksmithing item, meaning that even if some are technically more efficient to grind just on their own, you're always going to get more blacksmithing EXP by doing one of all of them. So that way, there's an incentive to engage in some variety. And yeah, Guild Wars 2 also has a system similar to that, but not in Skyrim. 10 trillion iron daggers, okay? 10 bajillion, quadrillion, fintillion, momillion iron daggers. Wonderful and phenomenal. Okay, but it gets worse, all right? It gets so much worse because it's recursive. What you can do is craft a potion that will make you better at blacksmithing, and then use your heightened blacksmithing skill to make a piece of gear that makes you better at alchemy. And now that you're better at alchemy, you make a better blacksmithing potion, which allows you to make a better alchemy gauntlet forever. If you have enough time and resources, and this doesn't take that much time to do, you can just create infinity stones. You can create the Thanos glove, you know, enchanting, not just blacksmithing, enchanting. You enchant the gauntlet, and then it goes up, then you enchant potion. You can create fucking Thanos glove in very little time and completely break the game. And the only thing stopping you from doing this, it's not infinite, it is functionally infinite. You can do it to the point where you're beyond God tier, okay? It's not literally infinite, but you can go up to the point where it might as well be. You can go really, really, really high, okay? So the only thing stopping you from doing that is your decision not to, which is a really shitty way of playing the game. Like, some parts are too easy, some parts are way too hard. Also, if you spent 2 hours, you could construct the Infinity Gauntlet. Okay, this is so wrong. Oh my god. No, it's not. I promise you. This is... Guys, am I not... It's been a while since I've played, but I remember this being the case, okay? I'm correct, right? Yeah. These are real things, yeah. And there's probably more that I don't even remember. Like, we could talk about how obnoxious the shopkeeping system is. I understand it's realistic to make it so merchants only have so much gold in them. However, the problem is that it's so easy to just farm up and sell hundreds of thousands of gold worth of stuff that what you end up doing is a cycle where you sell to merchant, 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 and then wait like a day, sell to merchant, 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 wait a day. It's like, oh my god, is there not like a fence you can stack stuff up at? Not to mention you can steal stuff from people by putting buckets over their head. I never thought that was much of a problem, mostly because it's really silly. I never did that myself. You can do that if you want, and you can just break the game and have infinite everything, but yeah, it's not a necessary... I don't know. It seems to me almost like a quirky cheat code, if anything, but I don't know. You all understand where I'm coming from here, right? I've played Divinity Original Sin 2. It is a bomb game. So now that the hype has worn off on me, what does Skyrim have left to impress me besides the early memories I have of playing it? The first time I was able to get it to work on my old Macintosh computer back when I was a young lad, okay? What is there left for me? So there's mods, and I'll get to that in a second. But apart from that, apart from the mods, not much. Not really anything. The story is uninteresting, the characters are unengaging, the game doesn't look great by modern standards, meaning that pure spectacle isn't going to do it anymore. The open world kind of pales in comparison to modern games like Breath of the Wild, so that's not necessarily, you know, that's not the winner there, you know? The gameplay isn't super fun. I don't know, it just seems like a nostalgia thing. A lot of people really like Skyrim because they had a really positive first experience, but don't let the wool blind your eyes, you know? No, Shactus, I'm just asking, like, what does it hold for me now? And I think the game was kind of bad back then, too. But it was a bad game designed to grab people in a way that was very initially engaging. And it was bad back then, too, in my opinion. I don't think the game has gotten worse with time. I just think that time has made it more clear how bad the game always was. Now, you can get mods. And by the way, the last time I played Skyrim, I did indeed use mods. I installed, I think, 3 or 4 complete, like, not overhaul mods, but mods that are meant to update things. Fewer bug problems, some rebalancing on, like, weapon stats, make magic less absolutely dog shit, and all of my criticisms still hold. No disrespect to the incredible work that modders do. You people are legitimately, like, superhuman. You put in, like, a ton of time and energy and effort into making the stuff that you like better, and that is so cool, and I'm never, ever, ever going to speak ill of you. However, I don't like the argument that games are better because mods. I just don't. We wouldn't accept that for anything else. Like, ever. Like, can you imagine if a person released a mediocre movie, but they left in the movie pauses to allow commentary that you could overlay with YouTube videos, encouraging YouTubers to produce their own overlays that you would then watch adjacent to the video to add to it or to fill in blanks? Now, I want to be clear, that would be an incredibly interesting gimmick, but I don't think that would make it better. You know what I mean? Listen, I'll tell you this much, okay? That would be really cool if done once when the 50th AAA blockbuster Hollywood studio releases a movie like that because they clearly couldn't be asked to fill in, like, the missing bits. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I think that games should be able to stand on their own. And I've played Blasphemous. I got the true ending. And I just do not think Skyrim is held up. I think that Fallout New Vegas is a really good example of the absolute pinnacle of that type of game as it currently exists. You have Fallout New Vegas, and then I think the Outer Worlds was pretty good. I don't think it came up to Fallout New Vegas standards, but Outer Worlds was good. And then I feel like you've got Fallout 3, and then Fallout 4, and somewhere in here Morrowind fits in, but I've never played it. People say Morrowind is good. Maybe Morrowind is better than Outer Worlds? Would you say Morrowind is better than Outer Worlds? Okay, then somewhere, yeah, I don't know. And Oblivion, I don't know. Again, I don't know. Some people, they talk up Morrowind quite a bit, but I just haven't played it. Does everyone now understand why I feel the way I feel?